The sun was sinking behind the mountains, brushing the sky with streaks of orange and bruised purple. When my parents' car slowed to a stop along Highway 16, we'd left a gas station 30 miles back, and I thought maybe the engine was acting up. I was wrong. The problem wasn't the car, it was them. My daughter, Kay, slept beside me in the back seat, her head resting on my thigh, her small fingers clinging to the ear of her pink stuffed bunny, the only thing in her life that hadn't lied to her. She was 7, fragile, quiet. I'd spent her whole life trying to shield her from the storm that raised me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. The recorded voice from the front seat faded as my father's real one cut through it. Out, he said, his eyes hard in the rearview mirror. I blinked. What? My mother turned around, her sunglasses still on though the sun was nearly gone. Out now, she said flatly. We're done dragging your failures around. We only gave you a ride because we pitied you. That pity ran out 20 minutes ago. I didn't move. My dad opened his door, then mine, the sound sharp in the cooling air. Either you get out, he said, voice low, or I make you. I clutched Kay closer. She's asleep. Don't. Cold air rushed in as he yanked the door wide. The silence that followed screamed louder than any fight we'd ever had. I looked past him to my mother, who sat filing her nails, calm and distant, as if this was just another chore. I don't have money for a cab, I said. Then walk, she snapped. Maybe someone useful will pick you up. He pulled Kay out first, still half asleep, still clutching her bunny like it might make sense of this one day. I stumbled after them. Wait, Dad, please. He shoved me hard. Gravel tore my knees. My palms burned against the pavement. Kay whimpered. Then my sister Mia slid from the middle row into my seat. She popped her gum and grinned at me through the window like she was posing for a camera. This car rides better without the dead weight, she said. And then they drove away. No warning, no glance back, just red taillights fading into the dark, like they'd erased us. Kay's voice cracked beside me. Mommy, are we in trouble? I pulled her close, biting the inside of my cheek to keep from crying. No, baby, we're just between destinations. I couldn't break down, not yet, not until I figured out how to get us off that highway. Cars passed without slowing, 1, 2, 4, some didn't even look. One sped up. Kay started coughing. Her sweater was too thin for the chill, so I wrapped her in my hoodie. The asphalt cooled fast, and the shoulder offered nothing but dust and dark. My phone was gone. They'd smashed it 2 weeks earlier, after I refused to hand over my tax refund. I hadn't fought back, I'd learned silence was safer. Kay tugged my sleeve. Mum, is Grandma coming back? I shook my head. No, sweetheart, she thinks we'll figure it out. Kay looked up at me, her eyes wide and lost. But we don't even know where we are. I swallowed hard. I know, I whispered, but we will. We walked until my feet ached, barefoot now because my sandals had finally fallen apart, Kay clutching her pink bunny like it still promised bedtime stories. I held her hand so tight I must have left prints. An old pickup truck slowed and pulled over. The driver didn't pry, he just looked at Kay, then at me, and asked, "You need somewhere safe?" I nodded. He let us ride in the bed of his truck, wrapped in blankets with a thermos of lukewarm tea between us. I cried into my sleeve while Kay sipped. When he dropped us at the nearest town he pressed a 20 into my hand. "Get her something hot," he said. "I've got 2 girls. Could have been them." I told him thank you and didn't ask his name, didn't want to hand someone else the shame I was carrying. We stayed in a diner until sunrise. Watching Kay sleep across the booth, peace finally settled on me. I'd wasted my life begging the people who despised me for scraps of love. They'd tried to erase me on a highway in front of my child, but I didn't belong in the category of things that could be so easily discarded. This wouldn't end with tears. It would end with a lesson, quiet, patient, durable. I would build it like a slow, exact thing. Silence, strategy, time. People who plant you in the dirt forget what grows there. On our second day the diner owner, Marlene, a reserved woman in her 50s, noticed us. Kay had gone pale from sleeping upright and I was rationing a single muffin across 2 meals. Marlene didn't ask for my story. After the lunch rush she sat across from me and said, simply, "You're not running. You're recovering." The words cracked something open. She gave me a dishwashing job in the back and let us sleep in the spare broom closet upstairs. She found Kay's second-hand clothes and left them on the chair without comment. There were no sermons, only a quiet dignity I'd never seen from my own family. I worked every hour I could. Kay enrolled in a small local school through a woman Marlene knew. She came home with a new kind of tired, the good kind, and she started to smile again. I never told her about what I was planning. Every night after she fell asleep I built the plan. They'd made the mistake of thinking the highway had wiped me clean. They'd forgotten how public their lives were. My father ran a local podcast under a curated persona and had thousands of followers. My mother sat on the school board and cultivated a spotless reputation. My sister sold a life of perfect mugs and morning routines to adoring fans. Their public faces were glossy and fragile, and they'd never imagined I could pry behind the gloss. But I could, because 3 years earlier, when I still lived under their roof and tried to keep Kay safe from the noise, I'd put a baby monitor in her room. They never knew it had cloud recording. They never guessed it picked up the late-night shouting matches, the casual cruelty, the conversations about cutting me off, to teach me a lesson. I had years of footage and audio, dates, names, moments of them laughing about my hunger, everything they thought was private. Everything I needed. Conversations where mum mocked students with disabilities. Audio of my sister bragging to her boyfriend about siphoning charity money to buy counterfeit designer bags for her content. All of it had been captured, accidentally, in the cloud backup of a $30 baby monitor. And suddenly, everything was mine. For a month I worked 2 jobs, slept in stolen 3-hour pockets, and became a one-woman editing room. I learned cuts, pacing, and how to make a single clip do what 1,000 words couldn't. I assembled a quiet digital bomb. I launched anonymous TikTok and YouTube channels, no face, no name, just captions, cropped screenshots, blurred video, and raw audio. Every upload opened the same way. What happens behind the filtered lives of the perfect family? I didn't tell my story. I let him tell it for me. At first, a handful of views, a few shares, then one clip hit, the sound of my sister laughing, drunk, boasting about buying followers and recycling our mother's speech for ad revenue. It detonated. 1 million views in 48 hours. 2, 5. People started combing for more. Voices were recognized. Threads connected. Followers turned from fans to accusers. Brands pulled sponsorships. The comment sections became tribunals. My mother's clip spread next. Parents in her district circulated recordings of her mocking children with learning differences. A petition swelled. A protest formed. By her next school board meeting, news vans idled outside the building. My father tried to salvage his reputation on his podcast. Someone, me, had already edited his intro to play a clip of him saying, "I'm not funding losers, even if they come from my wife." The stunned silence that followed when that audio aired live was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. They searched for who had done it and came up empty. While they scrambled to scrub their names, I rebuilt mine. Marlene helped Kay and me move into a small apartment above the diner. She covered the first month's rent. Strangers who'd watched the videos sent small donations with notes, "I was you once." I took freelance editing gigs and stayed out of frame. My voice reached millions without my face. The truth echoed louder than any confession I could have made. But I wasn't finished. 6 months after the first viral clip, a letter arrived from a lawyer. A class action was forming. Several families were suing the school board, using the clips as evidence. The attorney asked if I would testify anonymously. My anonymous channel had become a microphone for parents who'd been ignored and children who'd been mocked. I said yes. The trial was set for May, but there was one more thing I wanted to do before then. I hadn't spoken to my parents or Mia since Highway 16. They didn't know we were alive, or that we were better. My approach had been surgical, no public meltdowns, no screams. I wanted them to unravel without my hands on the wheel. Then the newspaper article dropped, and everything shifted. Beneath the headline, my mother's face, caught mid-blink, mouth twisted in disdain. The caption mentioned her disturbing remarks about students with disabilities. The subheadline added, ongoing investigation into misuse of school funds. 2 days later, my sister posted a tearful video on TikTok. She called herself betrayed, said her words were taken out of context, that jealousy had destroyed her life. Then she turned off comments. I could have ended it there, but I had one last gift to give, a reunion. I rented a small event space at the park and sent out invitations under a fake PR name, Hope for Daughters. A charity launch, supposedly celebrating mothers who uplift their children. I sent invites to my parents, to my sister, and to a handful of their former friends and collaborators. I made it sound exclusive, press, photos, redemption. I knew they'd come. They always craved an audience. They arrived dressed like a family trying to remember how to look perfect. My father, buttoned into a blazer 2 sizes too tight. My sister, all in white, an angelic rebrand. My mother, pearls at her throat and guilt stitched into her smile. The room was quiet, softly lit, with one large screen at the front. When they stepped inside, the door locked behind them with a muted click. The screen flickered to life. No leaks this time. No edits. No exposés. Just a home video. Kay, 5 years old, sitting at a small plastic table, coloring. The timestamp in the corner showed it was from the week they left us on the highway. She looked up at the camera, her voice small but steady. Mommy, do Grandma and Grandpa love me, or only if I'm better than Sarah? A long silence. Then my voice from behind the camera. They don't know how to love, sweetheart, but I do, and I always will. That was it. No anger, no revenge montage, just truth, a moment they'd discarded, now turned into their mirror. When the lights came up, I stepped out from the side room, Kay's hand in mine. She stood tall, no longer the trembling girl from that highway shoulder. She looked straight at him and said, "You left me on the road, but I never needed you to find my way home." We walked past them. My mother's hand twitched like she wanted to reach out, but words failed her. My father stared at the floor. My sister whispered, "Please, let me explain." I didn't stop. Outside, a small crowd waited, press, onlookers, former followers, cameras flashed. A reporter called out, "Do you have anything to say to the people who did this to you?" I smiled softly. They taught me what not to be, that's all. Then Kay and I walked away, hand in hand, into the bright afternoon. Please subscribe to our channel, I said in the voiceover later, and tell us in the comments where you're watching this story from.